YouTubers Hamfest 2020. We had an awesome weekend. My first guest in the stream was Bob Heil. I took Bob Heil's segment out of the 2-hour-long live stream that I did and shrunk it down to just his segment for your viewing pleasure here. If you are a new subscriber to my channel, welcome. Glad to have you aboard. We do ham radio and vintage computing, so all kinds of wonderful stuff there. I had some audio problems in the stream. Not gonna lie, totally my fault. This is my third time streaming, and it shows. So without further ado, here's Bob. All right, it is 1 o'clock, so I'm just going to go ahead and get this thing kicked off.
Right.
So this is Bob Heil, K9EID, as if Bob needs any kind of introduction whatsoever. Bob's been doing ham radio and audio and microphones and all this stuff for longer than I've been alive even. It's great to have Bob here. Bob, take it away.
Well, it's good to be here, and welcome to everybody. We're here on an unusual time, of course. We should be in Dayton, but no, we didn't make it this year. But thanks to you guys, we can do it virtually, and it probably is going to change a lot of what's going to happen in the future. Let me get back over here, and I've got some things to talk about, and I've got some very nice demos. Hopefully you might go home with something that you learned about. And of course, it all starts with the microphone. There's no question about that. And since this particular session is going to run a lot on audio, we got to start there. And it's something that a lot of people don't care about. They just, oh, I got a matching microphone. We're going to get into that matching microphone. There is no such thing. Painted the same color. But it is very important what you do with the microphone. And if you want to break pile-ups, you need a certain thing. You have to adjust the transmitter properly. But you need great articulation. And, of course, you can look pretty good. Those are from our custom shop. The microphone on the right, the gold one, is Carrie Underwood's microphone. And the one on the left is none other than Charlie Daniels, the great American. But pattern is really important. I use antenna arrays to create a directional pattern. What are you talking about? We're talking about microphones. But think about it. If you have a Yagi, or you have a phased array, or a loop, they all have directivity. And it's all done in the purpose of only collecting the audio from the front or sending it that way. Or the reverse would be to get rid of what you don't want on the back. But we want to do that to improve human speech articulation. This might be the first time you've ever heard the quote of the importance of power focus. The right microphone element delivers to your voice the same advantage as that Yagi compared to a dipole. And restricting the bandwidth of your transmitter single sideband signal forces the ability to make that power come down into a narrower slot. And by definition, this makes you louder on the other end, and that's what you're after. Audio frequency response is flat. You always adjust it for flat, but it doesn't play the needs of the human ear. And we're talking about not only ham radio, everything. And here's the reason. I want everyone to go look at the Fletcher-Munson curve. This was done back in the 20s for the telephone system. And as you can see, it's far from flat, absolutely far from flat. So if you think you have everything flat and it's great, because your ears are screaming to get that mid-range and then all the low end. That's why when you hear somebody in a car roll up beside you and they got all the bass cranked up, all of the mids cranked up. Well, you see up there at about 100 and some dB, it's almost flat. So you can hear the bass, you can hear the vocals in the mids, you can hear the cymbals. If it's flat, you're going to have a tough time hearing all of that. So how do we do that? In our case, I came along, I was out of the hobby for 12, 13 years. I was on the road with all the groups doing their sound reinforcement. When I came back into it 12 years later, I couldn't believe it. It was awful. It was awful. And here's what I mean by awful. This is what I heard. This is exactly what I heard. And I'm going, what happened to my great Art Collins audio? Oh, well, I got a matching microphone. I got news for you. The only matching is it's painted the same color. That's it. How do I know that? Because I work with these companies. When I brought the first equalizer to the hobby, let me get it back where you can understand what I'm saying. All I did was put 2.5K in the mid-range. That's all I did. I didn't bother the bass. I didn't bother the treble. But the perception is, I did it all. No, the perception's wrong. So what I did then is I designed microphones to do that automatically. This is our new HC7. It's the DX Dream Machine. You don't have to equalize it much because I did it for you. And you'll notice a huge rise right into that 2 to 3K where your transmitter's going to die at 3K. And a lot of our products have that element, especially the Pro 7. The Pro 7 headset has been really making great things happening out on the other end. The DXpeditions and stuff love it. And it's because it's very comfortable, yet it looks like it would be heavy. It's not. It has a balance of low left side to right side. But then it also has another great feature. We're the only company on the planet that has phase reversal. What's that about? We're going to get into that in just a minute. Every one of our headsets can be adjusted for comfort. Every once in a while, I'll read a eHam thing. Oh, it's darn Heil headset. They didn't read the instructions. All of them can be adjusted. If you got a big head, do it. You got a pin head like mine, do it. Adjust it. And all of these have interchangeable elements. And the reason we want that is that Icom requires a different one. And we'll get into that in just a little bit. But we've been building since 1982, 83 along and through there. And in 1985, history was made when the Navassa Island DXpedition came to me. They were getting ready to go down to Scarborough Reef, and they needed a headset. They were cabbaging all kinds of things together. And our BM10, which is still in the line, it's lightweight, it's got the great element in it. It's a marvelous headset, and it's not very much money, but it's really needed by many. And then we have the great PR40. The PR40 is one incredible microphone. There is nothing, Neumann, Shure, Electro Voice, you name it, nothing touches the PR40. Why? Here's the reason. Here's one of the deals that happened to it. Major broadcasters, they all tossed out their RE20s. The Sirius Radio bunch just bought 250 PR40s last fall. Of course, Leo Laporte has been using them for years. And we're very blessed by that because it's caused a sensation in the broadcast industry because it really is one incredible microphone. And I'm going to prove to you in a minute why. Let me bring it out here. Wish we had a lot more time because we could do a lot of things. Get the level up a little bit. We could do a lot of things. So I want them. Anybody know about this guy? It's a lock on your mic stand, so you don't have to unscrew it or pull it on and off. Use that in the live sound and in some of the broadcasts. LB1 is great. Anyway, this thing has 40 dB of rear. There is no microphone on the planet that will even come close. And here is the proof. When I turn this backwards, it's 40 dB down. I doubt if you'll hear me. It's working. How'd I do that? The other thing is that Joe Walsh, one of my best friends, asked me to build a microphone that had very good front pattern. You look at all the entertainers, they got some stupid ball mic and they got to be right here. They can't be anywhere else. Well, first of all, they should never be more than 2 inches away. But I built this microphone. It's got an omni front. If you close your eyes and listening is a mental concept. If you close your eyes, you can't know that I'm changing this thing 90 degrees each way. No other microphone will do that. But when you get past the phase plug, this is an amazing thing. And especially for ham radio, if you're using a PR40, you get rid of all that nonsense up here. And that semi-omni front's really great. It gets down to 28 cycles, 18K on the top end. But phasing, how does this work and what is it and how important is it? If you take a minus signal and a plus signal, what do you get? 0 or close to it. Well, if you don't get anything out of this morning from me, I have a little situation that I'm going to play for you. Got to change microphones. We have 2 of our PR22s. This microphone I developed at the invitation of Paul Rogers of Bad Company some years ago. He wanted a microphone that didn't have to be equalized because he said a lot of my sound men don't know how to do that. So I did. And it's a marvelous articulate microphone with no EQ. Well, I have 2 microphones. What am I going to do with them? You know, if you had 500-watt amplifier and you're not making the pileups because you got your master microphone and it's all mushy and bassy, well, Bill's out of sound. He's fine. Well, I got news for Bill. He's not listening. Listening is a mental concept. Hearing is physical. Okay. Listen. Close your eyes and listen. Dial in all the harmonics. And you understand what's going on and you'll understand better. Articulation. Now, if you had a 500-watt amp, and you're not making a pile up, I'm going to go buy a kilowatt, 1,000 watts. You doubled your power 3 dB. Now, this is not some kind of a magic act. This is science. You don't ever read about it, perhaps, but you are getting the truth from me that I learned from the Fletcher Munson curve, Paul Klipsch, all these great engineers that taught me as a child. When I bring these 2 mics together, you're going to see the meter on my mixer go up 3 dB, and you're going to hear it go up on 3 dB. You ready? I mean, they're both the same. And there's 3 dB more. Wait a minute, Heil. Remember I told you about mentally listening? Close your eyes, please. See if you can hear me take 500 watts away or 1,000 watts or however you doubled your power. 1, 2, 3. You know why you didn't hear a difference? Because the human being cannot detect 3 dB. Oh, we could if we were in a perfect anecho chamber. Yes, but we aren't. And so, what's the deal? Every time you double the distance of the microphone, you lose 6 dB. We'll get back into that in just a minute. But phasing is so important. Check it out. We're going to do something very strange. Not really. I have a little plug here. I made up. The plug is backwards. Pin 2 is hooked to 3. 3 is hooked to 2. Big deal, Bob. Works just fine. Absolutely. But it's out of phase. These microphones are out of phase. And like I said earlier, when you look at that, we have a minus and we have a plus. Now, what's going to happen? Listen. Let me put this up here. Listen, listen, listen. Here we go. 1, 2. It still works, but you don't hear it. It's 40 dB down. So, Joe said to me, hey, buddy, do something. Do something on my microphone. And so I did. We were the first people to figure it out. And it's all because of ham radio and antennas that I figured this out. Shure tried it, and they failed. The SM7 was to be a large dynamic. It wasn't. It's got an SM57 in it. What a joke. They fooled you for years. Open one up, you'll see it. The engineer at Shure came to me a couple of years ago at the NAMM show, wanted to know how I did it. We've been friends forever. He's a good friend. He just retired, Bob Schuline. And he wanted to know how I did it. Well, there's how I did it right here. It's very simple. Every microphone out there, except ours, have 4 little holes up around the bottom of it. You can check this out with your own little microphone. Sometimes you can't see them, but there's 4 little holes. 1, 2, 3, 4. That's not enough. That's not even close. So what I did is I opened up the whole bottom of this element, and we put it on a pedestal that's kind of a shock mount. And the reason that the PR40 has all those side panels, it's not a stupid condenser. They're a scourge of the earth. They shouldn't be here. I know, a condenser. But they pick up everything. They're too noisy. You got to have phantom power. And every damn one of them has this little clicky top end in it. But it's not natural. So why have it? Ego. Okay. Well, I want things that perform. And so as you can see, up into this microphone comes the rear, and it comes in at different frequency because at different frequencies are different length. And it all happens right here as it comes up and into the bottom. And it's totally out of phase. Totally. And we're so thrilled at the performance of this microphone. So many bands are using it for instruments and so on. Not much for vocals, but I do have a couple of rap groups using for vocals. It's kind of interesting how that all happened. But let me change the microphone back to Carrie's microphone. This is a PR35. This is Carrie Underwood's microphone. And what's so cool about it, she loves it because she can move around. And it absolutely is quiet. Try that on your end. I don't care what it is. You will hear all kinds of noise. Well, that was another thing that Joe requested, and we learned how to do it. And so all of these things make the PR40, the PR35, R22, all of them have the same thing that we have brought to this industry. It's an amazing piece of gear. And as I said, so many of these broadcasters are using it. That's Jenny McCarthy down at the bottom. She's a hoot, fun gal. But you learn very quickly that all of our microphones now have that same ability. The 781 has become one of the most popular microphones because it's not very expensive, but it has all of the characteristics of a PR40. I just rolled off that last octave or so. We don't need 28 cycles. It's very hard to tame into a 3kC wide filter. And you do have. Yeah, some of you guys are running 4 and 5 and 6. Don't do that. Don't do that. You're not respecting your neighbor. You can have beautiful sound in 3K. Beautiful, if you have the right equalization. But the thing about it is you have to do things. One of the things you don't want to forget is the windscreen. And without a windscreen, you're going to have breath pops a lot. And one thing around that, if you talk across the microphone, if it's anybody else's microphone, you won't be heard very well. It gets real weird sounding, but not ours. But if pump, 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 B, those pops, and a lot of people, many people have different amount of air pushing that diaphragm, and so we can put that stop. We have a really nice one in here, as it doesn't pop much with mine. The other thing we did, we have absolutely captured the hip-hop industry because you can cup the microphone and it doesn't change the sound. Try that on your ball microphone. Try that on any microphone, because you just covered up all of those 4 little holes. Well, our holes aren't around here. They're down here. So things like that make things happen. But in ham radio, you don't want to be away from the microphone. If you do, listen to what happens. And you're going to say, oh, well, forget it, Heil. I'll just turn up the gain. Well, when you turn up the gain, listen what happens. It gets real echoey in this room. You don't want to do that. You never want to be more than a couple of inches away. Never, ever. Even if you have a desk stand, get up on it. And so the main reason to use a boom would be that. What about the Icom? We want to talk just a minute on Icom. Icom needs more gain because they have a lower preamplifier in them. Because they went from day one, back in the 60s when they hit the market, they use electric microphones. They were cheaper. They weren't as good. And everybody loved it. Well, we built a thing called the ICM microphone. That microphone, by the way, is a wonderful microphone. For a lot of stores selling it for $100. It's the answer with the cable, the connector, and all that. It's great. But we also put it in our headsets. All of our headsets can be had. That's the new BM17. It's really become popular. And all of them have it. The DSP setup varies with your voice and the microphone selected. But one of the things you want to do is listen to your signal through another receiver, not the rig's monitor. You can hear it, but it really doesn't tell you. You want to listen to another receiver set the same way that should. But here's a real quick thing. It's very simple for Icom. Roll off the bass minus 3 dB, punch the treble up 3 or 4 dB, and set the compression to medium or off. I don't like compression. I don't think we need it. And that gets you really set. I mean, it's real easy. The Yaesu's a little more complicated. For the MP series, you set those menus and you're there. For the 2000 through the 9000, I was commissioned by Dr. Asagawa, who owns Yaesu, to build the equalizer. So that's all of my parametric EQ in those. And you have to listen on a separate receiver again to be able to do that. It's very important that you listen in that receiver. And again, you want to have this microphone close to your mouth. So how do you do that? How do you mount it? Well, we have all kinds of really cool desk stands, but get up on it. And we make you get up on it because I put the push to talk there. There's reasons for all this, guys and gals. I've been a ham for 65 years, so you see, I've been there, done that, and rolled the truck over it and threw it in the trash can several times, and I'm going, oh, wait a minute, it could be this way. All kinds of booms, and we were the first people to bring booms to the industry. You didn't see booms from anybody, and that one has a patent on it. What's the patent? It's called the topless boom because there's a top strip on it that unclips, and you can lay your cable in that channel, and you don't have cables wrapping all around it. I mean, it's a real professional. We sell hundreds of these things a week. I don't know where they're all going. The podcast industry, of course, all of the broadcasters they've gotten hip to what we're doing, not only microphone wise. So we use shock mounts. We have a lot of shock mounts that work for all the different microphones. So that makes the rumble go away. Push to talk, we have different switches, but the one that's really ideal, nobody else is doing it, is 2 switches in 1 foot switch. Why? Because the red lead goes to your amplifier and the blue lead goes into your transceiver through one of our adapters or cables. And the deal there is that I set those 2 switches so the red one comes on first, then the signal from the transceiver. If you did the reverse of that, you might have some fireworks in your amplifier. You don't want to turn it on with the signal already applied. And the hand switch is really great. Magnum. I should have called it the 38. That's how I did it, though. I actually scaled it as the 38 special, and it worked really good. I mean, it was a thing that I built here in the lab out of some plastic stuff I had. It was great, and I put a Carling switch in it, and then we went to some real high dollar switches. Things not high dollar, but I wanted to be very active. And it's wonderful to have a hand switch. I like it a lot. I like it a whole lot. And we even make our own connectors, because you look at your connector, it's a piece of junk. It's made in China, came from the CB industry, and it's not very good. First of all, what you have is a little bitty ring, and it's really hard to get your fingers around a 1/4 inch. And if you want to put it into a 2000 where it's recessed, get out your needle nose. Well, we made that a lot nicer. The cable clamp, you look at your cable, it's got its CB connector. They all are. I know where they came from. I work for these companies. I'm inside. I know what's happening. And they usually wrap some tape or some kind of shrink wrap around them, and they really don't work. Well, we build our own wire, and we build 2 outputs. And when you clamp those down, it clamps the microphone cable, and it clamps the push-to-talk line. It's wonderful, and you can tow your car with this thing. It's very secure. And the other thing that's so helpful, is our wire. We make our own wire. And I know you're going to say, oh, once you ever play with it, you'll see what I mean. First of all, as you can see, there are 4 18 gauge. Your microphone cable has 22, maybe 24. It's ridiculous. It breaks them. That's 18 gauge. We have 2 of them inside a 100% silver shield. It solders like a dream. And the reason there's 2 is because the broadcasters and a lot of ham inputs now are using balanced line. What about that blue and that green? With your cable and every other mic cable, they're inside the shield. How stupid is that? Just how stupid. How stupid. I get just so mad at things when I see that nobody's listening to us. And the reason we want that shield on, or the push-to-talk outside of that shield, is you got DC on the push-to-talk. You have AC on the audio. You talk about saving lots of RFI problems. I mean, there's not a week or 2 goes by that I haven't solved somebody's RFI problem just by switching to our cable, because they're not inside the same shield. You get all kinds of problems when they're coupled together. Why has no one ever figured this out? I don't understand it. And you want to check it out. We have cables that'll fit everything. So, and you can buy just reels of 10, 20. Julius Jones, he buys it by the 1,000. All of his cables are high wire. Once you get into it, you will never, ever go back. I guarantee that. It's an incredible thing, and it's very flexible and RFI proof. Oh, golly. I do hope that you guys are watching Ham Nation on Wednesday at 8. There's so much going on there. So much. And we're right now we're doing Club Spotlight. We're spotlighting clubs So if you have a club that's doing things or not doing things, send me an email. We want you on the show. We want to spotlight what you're doing. And it's really helpful these days with all of the COVID things. We also have a doctor on just about every night. We had one last week. You want to go look this up. The guy's a doctor and a ham, and they built their own little innovator. I'm all right. And it's simple. We bought parts at Home Depot and Lowe's, and it works great. The FDA is approving it. You want to go look at that, you can build your own. So these are the kind of things that we do. You also, in closing, go to my website. There are tons of things there. And I want you to go spend some time. And about 2 little rolls down the scroll, you'll see about Ham Radio Day. It's still up there. We had tens of thousands of people on it last weekend. But it's about 20 minutes of really cool things to help you from our service director. Then we come into this studio. I was there for an hour doing all kinds of things that normally don't have a lot of time to do, but you need to see some of those. And in all events, send me an email. Send me your phone number. I'll call you. Try me. I'm really hardcore on that, because a lot of times you go to these companies, you never hear about them anymore. If you have a problem, if you don't have a problem, call me. Let's talk about what we can do to help you. And I really appreciate you joining us. My wife owns the company. She's the president. I'm just the CEO, and I design stuff in this studio. This is where I design my stuff. You'll see the plant as you go through the thing. I was very honored to receive a doctorate award recently from Mizzou, and I barely made it through high school. It's amazing. And because of ham radio, that's what taught me. We also are the only manufacturer in the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. They have a large room on the 3rd floor with a lot of the early things. Of course, this little guy, the talk box. This one happens to be signed by Peter Frampton. Joe and I come up with it. And there's a whole story about the talk box. But anyway, that's in there. All kinds of mixers we built. We were the only company to build a quadraphonic mixer for Pete Townshend's Quadrophenia. The stories go on and on and on. I'm very blessed to be able to do this. And in closing, the reason I was able to do it, I barely made it through the 8th grade. It was ham radio. I became a ham radio operator when I was 15. And one of the first guys I started talking to that week, it was a guy, I didn't know who he was. You never know. But I was playing the organ at the Fox Theater, and I'd go and have a little time left. I went to see him one day. He was the chief engineer of KMOX CBS Radio. He brought me under his wing, and I learned so much. And I'm trying to share that with you. Go look up the Fletcher Munson curves of the 1920s, the AT&T thing. I have a whole segment on that. Call me. Let me visit your club meeting, and we'll do some of this for you. I know we have a lot of people today, and I respect that. So I'm going to get out of here, and I'm going to go see what's happening over here on 40 meters right now. But please stay in touch. We're here to help you, and I thank you so much for putting this together today. It's so helpful. And we'll talk to you on the air somewhere, or send me that email.
All right.
We'll be there.
All right, Bob, thanks a lot. That was awesome. Glad to have you aboard. The chat room was just alive with kudos and accolades and gratitude for all of your big help. And we've got Jordan coming up right next.
Well, I thank you for putting this on. And yeah, please stay in touch, and we'll make things happy.
All right, Bob, we'll talk to you later. Thank you.